beautiful Monday morning, Uade. Good morning, Uade.
Good morning, Lagos.
Uade is at We Inc. Nigeria 2017 on Twitter. We also have with us in the studio Tunde Okufi at Big Cups on Twitter.
Morning, Ayo. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And also we have Gbolahan at Mr. G Quest on Twitter.
Morning, Ayo, and good morning, Lagos.
Well, I'm not alone. I do this with Valentine.
Oh,
Good morning. Lagos, join the conversation. Send us messages through our WhatsApp number. That number is 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981 for your WhatsApp messages. On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. Please add the hashtag to your messages so we can read them. It's freshly pressed 981.
All right, we'll go straight into our first story for this morning. And this one we took earlier, we highlighted earlier on. NEITI, that's Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, says Nigeria lost a whopping $28 billion to outdated crude oil PSC, that's production sharing contract, in 10 years. This report is from Thisday newspaper. Uade, can you please take us through why we're losing so much money because we haven't done a review?
I think we said something about this on Friday. The first question is, where's the PID? It just comes to mind. Where's the PID? If
the Petroleum Ministry bill.
yeah, so if
PIGB.
PIGB,
Governance
the governance bill.
That's right.
Okay. So if in the last 10 years we lost 28 billion, some of the things that we could have done with that is immense. We could have funded the rail lines between Lagos and Ibadan, between Port Harcourt and Maiduguri, quite a number of infrastructure development that could have been put in place. However, my take on this is, if the oil prices had gone beyond $20 for God knows how long now, why haven't they reviewed these PSCs? PSC of 1993, we're talking about how many years? 26 years now.
Yeah.
That's a long time, and you expected to have done this in either when the prices went beyond $20 or 15 years after.
2004.
So
when it went beyond $20.
when it went beyond $20 or 15 years after, which would have been 2008. However,
Yeah, go on.
It's not done there.
however, we haven't done this. So what are the regulators doing? What have they done about this? Like I continue to say, where's the PIGB, the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill? If we don't have transparency in the petroleum industry, then we'll continually lose money, and projects that can be funded would definitely not be. So we've been on the real issue for the last 10 years, almost 10 years, and we still haven't gotten anything. The only one that's been commissioned is the Kaduna Abuja rail line. So there's so much that needs to be done to improve the transparency in the oil and gas industry.
All right. Thank you so much, Uade. Well, I wanted to touch on very briefly on this one. While you're doing that, PSC, just for your information, is an arrangement used in the upstream sector for the exploration and development of petroleum resources. So it's a contract with international.
Yeah, I just wanted to say very quickly that this is indicative of the issues and the challenges that we face as a country as well, that we're always very reactive to issues and not proactive enough. I mean, you're talking about this that should have been done long ago anyway. We're talking about $20 a barrel oil, and oil has moved beyond that for several years now. And it's indicative of our laws anyway that we have in this country. They are dated laws that we have. I mean, you're talking about a lot of reforms that should have taken place several years back, and we're still at it now. So we haven't actually
if you look at
dealt with
responsibility
that.
matrix, I like that all of you are touching on this, and today is going to touch on it next. Who should be held responsible? Because the rhetoric is similar. I mean, this is what we lost. This is what we could have gained. This is how the trend has been going on. Who is responsible for this?
Well, the government, obviously, and the government agencies, the Nigerian partner in the contracts, which is the NNPC. Right. Look, it's almost like we're failing to look at, so far, we're failing to look at the real issue here. Don't assume that everything that appears to be negligent is just pure negligence and is accidental, right? There is no way you do not renegotiate a contract. And come on now, a Nigerian who is owed money and lets it go? Do you understand? It's impossible, right? These things, it's about the corruption that's so baked in and so caked in
Is it a
right?
case of
No.
corruption or negligence?
Both.
I'm saying
It's a
it's both.
combination
I'm
of
saying the
both.
reason for the
Combination of
negligence
two.
It's
is the
corruption.
corruption, and someone has benefited from it. Do you understand? Do you understand? I had a chance meeting with someone who the petroleum industry inside years ago that was saying that look, this amount even is an estimate. You know the way the contracts are even structured. Contracts are so bad that the international oil companies, the partners, are the ones that Nigeria has no way of estimating how much they take. It is in the contracts, it is their responsibility, i.e., the partner's responsibility to inform us how much they've taken and therefore our share. It is mind-boggling, right? This amount could be double, it could be triple.
Yes.
It could be
Sorry,
tampered with.
just one last thing.
Yeah.
The other thing we also need to look at, based on what Tunde said, is first and foremost, the government itself is not funding a lot of its obligations. So one of the things that gives the IOC the opportunities to continually take the money is if you're funding 100% of it.
If you're meeting your own obligations,
if you're meeting your own obligations, what happens?
All right, thank you very much. Just to also say that the NEITI also told the government that the contractors are actually willing to negotiate these terms and thus should commence the process. Moving on to our next story here, Justin, hundreds flee as pipeline explodes in Bayelsa. Now, before I go into the details, I wouldn't go into the details, I'll allow you to do this well on. It's interesting that the headline is just in, and this happened on Friday. And no official statement has been given by the company that's responsible for this. What's your take on this?
Well, I mean, this incident, as you mentioned, happened in Bonny in Bayelsa State, and it's on the Nembe Creek trunk pipeline, which carries about 150,000 barrels of oil per day or so. So it's quite significant anyway to our oil production when we look at it. And just as you mentioned, the incidents happened on Friday, but there hasn't actually been an actual incident report yet from the company that is actually managing the oil pipeline. And the company, 3 days after, and the company that is actually managing it as well is the Aito Group also, who manages the pipeline. The police have reported it, but they haven't actually gotten anybody to be present on site to report the incidents. It might be understandable anyway, because when we look at it, it's a weekend as well too, so you might not really have those that would do the impact assessment on ground as at the moment. The report is not actually meant to be done by the police, but by the people that are actually managing the pipeline itself as well. So I mean, they haven't actually reported it if it was just negligence or it was a deliberate attempt to vandalize the oil pipeline. Although there's been several reports or speculation as well too that this might be attributed to sabotage as well too, because in February we did have the NDA, that's the Niger Delta Avengers as well too, saying that they're holding fire as at present as well too, and they would act as at when due as given instructions if the president does win the bid for the second term as well too. So we do not know for certain now if this was actually accidental or if it was a deliberate attempt, but at least the beautiful thing about this reporting is that no life was lost as well too, and this actually affected about 6 communities. Several people had to flee from their houses also, but at least I mean it's been contained and it's been managed properly, so you know it's good so far.
Thank you very much. Now, no lives were lost, but we cannot underestimate the amount of money that was lost in terms of
absolutely,
and in terms of
and revenue as well too for the government.
Well. Thank you very much. And moving on to our next story here, and Uade, I'll come back to you for this one. Presidential amnesty fraud. EFCC secures final forfeiture of 738.85 million naira. This is from the Premium Times, and it looks like the EFCC are on fire. Just on Friday, we brought you the story that court jailed ex-army, ex-Air Force chief, 21 years, and today the EFCC have gotten another game. Uade, what's your take on this?
Well, this is good news for the EFCC. This is the second
conviction.
second conviction I've heard of.
It's not.
It's not.
No.
That's the point.
Well, it's a victory for them. Either way. However, my take on this is this: how the judge has given them what's it called, judgment to get back 732.85 million. So for me, for the first time in a long time, I'm not reading speculative amounts of what was stolen or what wasn't stolen or what EFCC declares on the pages of the newspaper. This is actually a court judgment, and that is great news for Nigeria. Now, the next thing is, how do you ensure that some of them are in properties? How do you ensure that you liquidate them and you would actually get this amount of money. I'm not sure you get that same amount, but if that's what the value is, well, for sale, most times you might never get to that. So, but at least it's good news, and there's progress being made in terms of collections of so-called corrupt practices in Nigeria over the years.
All right, thank you very much. Lagos, what do you think? Good news, or do you think the FCC is not quite doing enough or doing well enough? We'll take your comments right now.
Obama Chidozie sent in this message earlier, reacting to the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill. He said, well, talking about the PIGB, I know the Senate worked on it and sent it to the President for signing. Please, who's responsible for this? Where exactly is the bill at this moment? And what's the status of the bill? Well, MI from Akoka sent in another message. He said the estimate reflects costs of our inaction. All the foot dragging on the PIGB is quite interesting. Hopefully, the executive at the 9th Assembly will get in a room and find a patch for the NNPC nightmares. Vincent from Ibejuleki said the signing of the PIGB bill is very key in our oil and gas sector. We are losing so much money in this sector. And Steve Obiakos says, from Surulere, says, each time I hear about this form of loss in the oil sector, I throw my support behind the sale of NNPC. Mediocrity, incompetence, and ineptitude have killed almost all government businesses.
All right, we'll take on our next story from this one. Again, I hope this was some of the questions that were engaged our lawmakers or those who went in for the elections 2 weeks ago with regards to the PIGB deal. Guardian here says Nigerian court says extradition of Cameroon separatists illegal. Tunde, this one is for you. We heard the story of the fact that a number of Cameroon separatists had applied for asylum in Nigeria, and they were sent back to the nation, despite the fact that Nigeria is actually signed to a few conventions on human rights. What's your take on this, Tunde?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, despite the fact that we're signed to a few conventions. So, on one hand, and I'm not to excuse the government, you begin to wonder that how could you possibly have done this? Is it back to the incompetence that we spoke about, or the knowing, or the deliberate incompetence of passing off your actions as incompetence? Because it's a clear violation. If when people flee, it's international convention, and we're signed up to these things. I mean, we're not North Korea, for goodness sake, right? Someone flees their nation and enters yours. They're a refugee. First of all, you can't deport them if they enter your country as refugees, right? Then these guys are even they've submitted applications for asylum. You must hear that application, and a court must deny them, or must say that their application is null and void, or is not valid before you return them to the country. They can't be in the middle of that process and you suddenly take them out and eject them, right? The only way I can begin to think about this is if perhaps we have, because of the Boko Haram, terrorists or insurgencies, we're having some sort of unofficial arrangements with the government of the day in Cameroon. So it's possible, but to me that can be the only thing to make me think that as to why they do this. But even that is wrong, because I doubt Boko Haram insurgents are going to Cameroon to seek asylum, as they're just crossing the border as well. So this is wrong in so many ways. It's impossible to fully look at this and without looking at how the government of the day sort of the regard it has for certain laws, especially around civil liberties, when it comes to people who and we're treading a thin line here, who claim to be agitating for whatever type of thing. There are a bunch of Nigerians who are in prisons here. I mean, look at El Zakzaki, despite the court order, right? So there seems to be a trend with the current government in flouting or going around the provisions, exactly, and upholding the rule of law.
Right, well, it's important to know that Justice Jikere has ordered their return and also compensation.
Good luck to them.
Good
luck to them. They're held in a place that nobody knows right now. Right. So Nigeria will get them back very.
And I hope it follows through. Let's move on to our next story very quickly. This one's for you, Bolaho. Buhari says, I will appoint old hands, people of integrity, into my cabinet. And this group apparently does not include young people, although in another statement he said, well, he would consider, incorporating women and young people in his cabinet. He says, considering people of his class, old people in his class for the next cabinet, speaking to his objectives, aligning with building infrastructure and fixing the country. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the president made this comment at an APC Women and Youth Campaign Council dinner that was held just a few days ago or so. And this comment came up where he said, well, just as you mentioned, that he was considering engaging the old set of hands and his old classmates, and also I mean, people of integrity.
Not necessarily classmates. I mean, people of his class.
It does actually say the people of his class anyway. So when you say people of his class, he's referring. He said
level, his
old people of his
contemporaries.
class. Yeah, exactly. Old people of his class, his contemporaries also. So when you look at it anyway, I mean, I think, or at least the comment seems to have been made in good sense of humor. I wouldn't actually take it
Why
to
not?
be
You won't
seriously.
take something that your president says seriously.
No. I think what he's actually saying is that I think it was actually just playing to the gallery as well too. That's what I've heard anyway. In other quarters, hold on a minute. Playing to the gallery in other quarters, because of course people have accused him of employing or engaging people that are in his class, just as he said, and that he hasn't actually engaged a lot of youth. So, which is true, of course, because when we look at the statistics, yes.
Go on. If you look at his body language now, do you presume that he'll be joking about anything?
Look,
This is his second term,
hold on.
He has stated clearly that this is the 4 years that he
Yes,
has left.
yes,
for his
yes,
administration.
yes,
So
yes.
I do not suppose that he's in a position where he just wants to make.
I would say, he has another 3 months to go before he appoints his cabinet ministers. Let's not, yes, because he's going to appoint them in May. Of course, he has to dissolve the ones first, and he'll appoint them in May. Let's give him the benefit of doubt. Let's allow him, and let's see the cabinet ministers is going to appoint. Of course, I would like to believe that he has learned his lessons, he has realized his mistakes as well too. But the only thing that I see about this story is, of course, he's talking about appointing people of integrity. I'm not seeing comments about engaging people with competencies as well too, because we need competencies. I mean, it's good to have integrity, but we should be looking at competent hands as well too. So of course, when you look at it, his previous cabinet has been really poor. He appointed only about 19% women in his cabinet, compared to Jonathan's time, which was about 33%. And normally we're talking about engaging about 35% of women in positions of office as well too, considering the fact that we have population of women is about 50-50. But the other interesting bit that they also did talk about as well too at this meeting was that he was explaining to people as well too that the situation that they met on ground in 2015 was a challenging situation, and as such, we have to tighten our belts, and it's going to be a lot of work. One thing I would like to say as well too is that I hope in 4 years' time, we're still not going to be referring to the challenges that he met on ground in 2015, because he's had 8 years now to do the work, and there shouldn't be any excuse of previous administration anymore.
You should please loosen the belt a bit.
All right, let's move on. Let's take a few messages here.
All right, G-Force here says, not again. Old and integrity, Buhari, please use the young and agile. All right, Felix Ayawu here from Lagos says, kudos to EFCC for the recent convictions and others so far. It's an evidence that the war against corruption is gaining momentum.
And from the Punch newspaper, we'll go to the next story. We'll resist attempts to militarize Benue during elections. And that's coming from the governor of the state, Samuel Ortom of Benue State. Yesterday, he said that people of the state would resist any attempt to use the military to rig the governorship election. He's alleged that the APC leader, Senator George Akume, told his party supporters during a gathering that he had requested military personnel from the federal government to enable the party rig the coming elections in his favor. What do you make of the allegation, and really the sort of response that he hopes the federal government could give to this one?
Okay, let me start by this. In Nigeria, we always look for an excuse before we even write an exam. But that being said, if this is true and the Senator Akume actually made these statements, I'm wondering what's happening. Where the security operatives, what's INEC doing about it? Because if you say this in public, it means that you're actually going to carry it out. So already the man has started rigging the elections without the elections taking place. So
in what sense?
By saying that massive tongue printing of ballot papers and altering the results for APC. That is an
indication of intent.
That's why I said. But an indication of intent.
Yeah,
that's why I said. I say if it's true, then what have they asked these questions? Have they checked about? Have the security operatives, have INEC gone ahead to find out if this is true? Have they found out whether there are illegal ballot papers running around the place? But like I said, everybody is always looking for an excuse first and foremost before they even go into the election.
Yes, but you call it an excuse, but this is very similar to what Atiku Abubakar mentioned, and some people in the strongest opposition, PDP, have said about the APC governments that are using their might, the military might, to intimidate voters to concede to their plights. It's been an allegation going on for a bit. And would you say that this, because the Benue State governor is of a different party, he has no right to?
No, I'm not saying that, but these allegations of using the federal might is not today that it has been in place in Nigeria. Well, whether it was the APC or the AT or the AMPP, the same thing was said. Obasanjo will use his federal might to rig the election. Jonathan will use his federal might to rig the election. My final take on this will be, let people actually go out, like it happened in Kwara State. If they really believe that they need a change, then go out and vote for the party that you really want to vote for. And
let's also note that the military unequivocally mentioned, very in strong terms actually, said in December of 2018 that they are non-partisan.
Exactly.
And they have no play in the elections as much as possible, as much as the allegations are going around, and their only duty is really around security. But we'll move on. We'll move on to the next story. This one is from Guardian. The Guardian newspaper has this headline: Sovereign Fund commits 50 billion naira to boost power generation. And it's coming to you, Gbolahan, a subsidiary of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, InfraCredit. They said they've opened a 50 billion naira, 600 megawatts euro hydroelectric infrastructure green bond. And recall that green bond only came into existence in 2013, funding such things as renewable energy and some other endeavors like that. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, of course, this is a good effort by the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. Of course, we know the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority holds, or they're accountable for our excess crude accounts that we have, which is, I think we're currently maybe at about $1 billion or so at the moment now. So right now at the moment they've committed 50 billion naira, which is an infrastructure green bond for the Shiroro hydroelectric power station or so. And of course we know that the power sector anyway has a liquidity constraint as at present moment. Of course, every sector needs money. Every part of that sector needs money. Anyway, we're talking about the generation, the distribution. Right now, at the moment, Nigeria is actually we're generating more than we're distributing as at present at the moment. So what we're seeing now is that this bond is actually being raised, and then the Shiroro is going to be generating another 600 megawatts of power to add on to the 600 megawatts that they're currently producing as at moment as well. And of course, this Shiroro power station is actually being managed by the North-South power station that the power station was concessioned to for a 30-year concession or so. Since 2013. So it's a good move to see this happening. It's good to see a lot of money being pumped into the power generation sector. All we just want to know is, how is this going to translate to more power, exactly, to the common man as well, too. Exactly. So how is it going to translate to more power? Because there's a lot of constraint in the power sector industry at the moment. Yes, money is going into the generation as at present, but we also need money to go into the distribution arm of it as well, so that Nigerians can feel the effects of this money that is being pumped in, and we can get more power at the end of the day.
Thank you. What do you pick up?
Just to add to what Gbolahan said, what's happening to transmission? So much generation. People are talking about generation, distribution.
That's the distribution company.
And however, what's happening to transmission? Because we don't have enough transmission lines. So if they generate 30,000 megawatts, we still won't get it down to the distribution company.
So the discos have been complaining that they lack infrastructure to distribute as much as they receive.
So but also the infrastructure in between, the infrastructure between the generation and the distribution, which is the transmission, which is managed by government.
So
we should put more money. The government, I think, for me, I think they should have put more of this money into the green bond, into the the transmission area.
I think you just have to fund all of it anyway,
Right.
pretty much, if you can.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's move on quickly to this next story. This one is from the Premium Times. SERAP, that's a Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. It dragged the federal government and state governments to the ECOWAS Court of Justice in Abuja over the frequent and repressive application of the Cybercrime Act. They said the federal government has been using this to harass, intimidate, arbitrarily arrest, and detain and unfairly prosecute anyone found publishing views or facts perceived to be critical of the government. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, first thing I'll say is what we do without SERAP, yeah. I mean, thank goodness for those guys. But look, when these Cybercrimes Act was passed into law, was brought about, we lauded it because we had hoped, or we had thought that we focused we needed a law in that space. It was that we didn't have any amendment provisions were outdated, so we needed a law for the current century. But we thought it would be focused on real criminal activities in the sense of fraud and other things, right? And there are huge gaps in that area. But it seems that the government and authorities are more interested in using it to suppress freedom of speech and the press, because more and more,
some people
yes, absolutely, and more it's becoming clear that that's the focus and the thrust, and the aim of that obviously is to shape public opinion. But look, there are better ways to shape public opinion. For one, deliver. Do you understand? Do what it is that you're supposed to do, and then people won't be able to, or won't have anything to talk about or point out, right? It's important to, I know they know this, but remind them that, look, a free press and freedom of speech is integral to democracy.
Yes.
And if we say we're running a democracy, we can't do things like this, and we shouldn't. More and more, I mean, look, over the years, the Boko Haram insurgency is less reported, right? People will confuse that with, we were winning on that front, but things are happening. It's just less reported. It's underreported, and there's underreporting across a range of things, and it's coming out that it's issues and matters like this and the misuse of laws. Now, the story points out that certain elements of the act are vague. And that is true in the drafting of our laws. Many elements and parts are vague, and then it gets open to this misuse. So this is a good suit that's been brought forward by SERAP, and it's been pushed. The lawyers for them in this suit, Falano, and they put their case before the court, and there are a number of orders, a number of things, including for them to redact and change the parts that the troublesome parts and parts that are misused. And really, for a stronger country and a stronger democracy, we're trying to build institutions here. We can't allow this type of abuse.
Thank you, Tunde. Let's quickly touch on this next story that you retweeted from the Telegraph. Speaker Dogara, Gbajabiamila, Monguno, and Namdas cut up contenders lists on the top of contenders' names on the list of those who probably might be the next Speaker of the House of Representatives.
I'm dealing with political fatigue, man. Do we really have to?
We're not done. We still have more.
Yeah, it is. Saturday approaches. Another, some time off, or not time off, actually, just restrictions.
But the sitting speaker doesn't think.
Yeah, it doesn't think so. So look, this is Dogara wants to retain his seat. People are after it. The major contender is Gbajabiamila. Gbaja narrowly lost to him in 2015, I believe. So he's a strong contender here. Now Dogara obviously will be a bit worried, because between now and last time he's cross-carpeted. He's part of the PDP now, and he knows that the APC obviously will want that seat. And they have majority of the House. So Dogara will need a minor miracle. But then again, House members do what House members do, and they will always do what's in their favor. It won't be the first time that they will do things not in favor of their party, if it favors them personally, to be honest. And that's what Dogara is banking on, especially if the APC decides to zone the seat to certain regions. Dogara believes that if it's zoned to the northeast, where he's from, it will put him in good standing. He believes that if it's zoned to the southwest, which is where Gbaja is from, that it will put him in good standing, because if the party zones it, not all of the party will agree. They'll say, why did you give the zone to the guy in southwest? I'm more competent. And then the party argues, and there'll be a split. So he's hoping that those who split and don't agree with the party will come to his side and he'll get through. So, you know.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll take a few comments before we call it a day this morning. Has Buhari sacked people accused of lacking integrity like Amechi, Abakiari, Fashola, etc., who are currently in his cabinet, for telling us how he will appoint another set?
Please don't call Fashola's name in that list.
That's from you, Dee.
You shouldn't call Fashola's name in that list.
Uboma Chidozie sent in this next one. Uboma Chidozie says the allegation of the PVC. No, we never took that story here. Ibrahim says keywords facts. Why should I be prosecuted for stating the truth?
All right, thank you so much for your comments on WhatsApp and on Twitter. Unfortunately, we cannot get all of them, but please keep them coming. At 9 o'clock, we have Lagos Talk 981, and we will be taking the hottest story this morning and allowing you, giving you the opportunity to call in on the show this morning. This is still so breakfast. Thank you to our analysts for this morning. Thank you to Okufi at Big Cook. Thank you, Gbolahan at the request. Thank you, Uade at the Inc. 2007.
Ring Niger 2007.
Ring Niger 2007. We'll get to one day. All right, Lagos, thank you so much. We'll be back at 8:15 where Tega will be joining us here for the locker room now.